So I've been arguing with Robert Anton Wilson people again online. Seems to be a bit of a theme cropping up every so often. I don't go out intentionally to attack Robert Anton Wilson, but I just don't think he's all that. And it's happened a few times. I've got in a rows with people, with disagreements about Robert Anton Wilson. Happened the other night. It's happened several times over the past few years. So why don't I rate Robert Anton Wilson? Like, I used to be into his stuff, like but even at that stage, in my mid-20s, 26, 27, in his work, like number one, okay, he wrote some novels which are reasonably good. In his actual output, most of his material, like the vast majority of it, it's just referencing other people. He's referencing Carl Jung, Timothy Leary, Aleister Crowley, Buckminster Fuller. He's just referencing other people, writing about what other people have said, and kind of putting himself in the centre of it, promoting himself. Personally, if I want to read something from someone, I can read like an introduction, and then I'll get into the author's actual work, not read someone else writing about them, and how it was so interesting for them, how their mind was blown when they started reading this, and how mind-blowing it was, and then what happened to them, which is what this guy does throughout his writing. It's like kind of hubris, which is what I was accused of the other night by this dude. Hubris by association. And I like this person, so I'm kind of this as well. He's constantly bragging. He's a massive braggart, and it's a certain type of American who does this. I've met many of them over the years, usually down in Mexico. These are boomer braggers. You can't have a conversation with them. You start a conversation with them, and in a very short period of time, you realise this isn't a conversation, this is a lecture. And they're not really interested in anything but themselves. And he typifies this type of person in his writing. Basically a repeater, repeating things word for word, like everything's like a yarn that he's repeated 100 times at dinner with his friends, and he's just repeating it for you. And there's like nothing spontaneous, no spontaneous humour or wisdom or great insight. It's just repeating stuff, repeating limericks that he's read in a book. And there's a lot of people like this. A lot of them sorry, just trying to get my cigarette going. One of the guys on the stream I was watching the other night, the guy who was talking about Robert Anton Wilson, he was very like this as well. He was almost verbatim repeating stuff from a book that he'd read, Prometheus Rising, Robert Anton Wilson. And it's like, there's people who can do this, and people mistake it for intelligence and wisdom, and it's just some people are just very good at repeating stuff. They can read a book and then they can repeat what was in the book. I've seen it in many times throughout my life. For example, within Buddhism, I used to be into Tibetan Buddhism. I used to go to retreats and stuff, and you'd meet people there, and they'd be able to just repeat stuff. But when you actually sat down and talked to them, they didn't really have much about them at all. And it was the people that were actually trying to work through stuff and like not understanding stuff. They seemed to be the people who had the more like more of a grasp on things. The more easygoing people, where the repeaters, like they tend to be just, all right, I've read it, I learnt it, I know it now. I can give you one example, without naming names. One day I was stood in front of this guy, and I didn't know he was sitting behind me. He sat behind me. They were doing like a kind of performance, and I was stood on the edge of this performance, and he sat down behind me, this guy, in a chair. And then he asked me, he said, oh Kevin, he said, are you taking part in the performance? And I said, oh no, I'm just watching. And he said, well, stand aside. Like in a really like rude, arrogant, kind of condescending way. Stand aside. And I was like, you fucking cunt. If I was in different circumstances, you'd get a slap round the fucking upside of the head. Now later on, this guy, I know his name, and I know a bit about him. And this guy he's like an author now. He's written like books about the meanings of various tantras, various mantras and tantrism, and like what it really means, and like really academic texts going into this on like kind of university type, published by University of somewhere in America. And like it's like, yeah, fill your boots, mate, but I know from first-hand experiences that you're a fucking twat. You're a fucking arrogant fucking twat, and you've got no fucking clue about anything. And I've seen it myself on several occasions. This is what these people, they can repeat information, but they don't actually grasp much. And this is what I feel a lot of these occultists and Illuminati people, this is what they're like. But Robert Anton Wilson, he's constantly, throughout his books, not the fiction works, but the non-fiction works, he's constantly bragging about himself. Constantly. And I'm not the only person to pick up on it. My brother read his books and he said the same thing, and a friend of mine who was reading them, they said the same. Why is this guy always bragging? He's always fucking bragging about himself. And anyone will tell you that that's like, it's not a good trait. People who are constantly, I, this happened to me, I thought this, I thought that, and then I did this bragging about how he's going to be remembered in the future as a futurist, a groundbreaking futurist. And you can see 30 odd years later, after his books, it's not really the case. He's more or less a footnote to that period of time. And again, there's nothing groundbreaking per se about what he actually wrote. Like he himself, he's just quoting other people much of the time. So this is why I don't rate him so high as some of these fanatics. To give you an example of his bragging, there's the book The Eye in the Triangle by Israel Regardie, which is basically a biography of Aleister Crowley. Now, Robert Anton Wilson wrote the introduction to that book, and in the introduction to that book, which is, off the top of my head, I can't remember, I think it's about 450 pages long, right? Not big text, like relatively small text, 450 pages long. And in that book, in the introduction, Robert Anton Wilson goes on about how mind blown he was when he read this book. And he claims, and it's right there in black and white in the introduction, he claims that he sat down and he read it all in an evening. Quote, in an evening. Now, you cannot read that book in an evening. And number one, okay, he's bragging. Number two, just because even if like why would you say that anyway? It doesn't show anything. Like, reading a book fast doesn't prove that like you've gained some great understanding of that book. It's actually the opposite. If you actually take time over a book and analyze what's been said and think about it, that's to my mind is a better way to read a book. But you can't read a book of 450 pages in an evening. And I pointed this out to somebody on an argument I had about Robert Anton Wilson a couple of years ago on Facebook. And I said, I think he used to brag all the time, and he claims he read this book in an evening. And this guy said to me in response, "Oh, well, maybe you can't, but he was a professional writer." Which is akin to me saying, "Oh, well, I've got a friend who's a professional jogger or a sprinter. So because he's a professional sprinter, he can run from Paris to Cairo in 2.5 hours." It's just fuck-wittedness of the highest order. You cannot read a book, and like he's always bragging like this, Robert Anton Wilson. He talks in the introduction to a compilation called what's it called? Portable Darkness, another compilation of Aleister Crowley work. He's talking in there about Aleister Crowley's poetry, and how you can infer different meanings from what he's written down in a poem, like the what's the word? Like the manifest and unmanifest. There's a meaning and there's a hidden meaning. And he states something along the lines of if you read any line of Aleister Crowley's poetry and you do not have the same response, which is the genius, mind blown response that Robert Anton Wilson had when he read this poetry. If you read any one line of Aleister Crowley's poetry and you do not have a similar response, then you need to read it again. And it's like, wow, you arrogant, bullshitting fucker. I mean, number one, Aleister Crowley's poetry, like a lot of those dudes from the 1800s and the 19th, 20th century, like writing poems in that day was basically like being in a band these days. Like they didn't have like rock bands, so they were like knocking out poems, those guys. Big thick books of poetry. And Crowley's, he's written big, you look at his collected works, poetry works, when he was a young man. I mean, they're big, thick fucking books. It spent me a month to get through like about 150 pages of one of them a couple of years ago, when I had nothing else to do but sit and consume it. And it's very, very kind of hard going stuff. But according to Robert Anton Wilson, he just reads it and he has this incredible, otherworldly, mystic understanding of it all, of every word, and that's not me putting words into his mouth. That's from his own writing. And I would postulate, for somebody who kind of considers himself such a genius, his actual work output, his actual original work, not him knocking out how-to books referencing other people, his actual personal work output, like original work and thoughts, is extremely small. He wrote a few plays, those novels, and then just basically writing the same old stuff again and again and again. A lot of those books, like the Cosmic Trigger books, the Sex and Drugs, these books, it's like you're reading the same book again and again and again. It's like David Icke. Like you read a David Icke book and then you read another David Icke book because he knocks another one out a year later, and it's like the same old stuff. That's what Robert Anton Wilson's work was like. Which is why I don't consider him this incredible. Once you read Robert Anton Wilson, your mind opens, and again, a lot of these people, they're these hardcore Robert Anton Wilson fans. They go on about reality tunnels and stuff like this, and the Chapel Perilous and the Dark Night of the Soul. All of this stuff again that Robert Anton Wilson writes about, that was written about by other people. There's original works you can go to find out about this stuff. But those types, the Robert Anton Wilson types, they're very what am I trying to say? Like that just becomes a reality tunnel in itself. That's just a hole to get stuck into. It's another hole you get stuck into. And I would suggest a lot of those people, that's where they are. They're stuck in that thing. 23, smoking a spliff, read Aleister Crowley, whoa, Bugs Bunny, man. Another thing with Robert Anton Wilson, which I don't like, is the very lame boomer humour that he uses. It's just the same old shtick throughout all of his work. Boomer humour, typified by, I don't know, for example, like at the start of a chapter of a book, of a chapter, Cosmic Trigger or one of these. He'll write something like, he'll put a quote in from, like, I don't know, Nietzsche or something, Nietzsche. He'll put a quote from, Plato or Nietzsche or Crowley, and then underneath it, he'll put a quote from, he'll quote like Bugs Bunny or something. Like, what's up, Doc? Bugs Bunny. And it's like, that's really kind of lame, lame. Oh, did you see what I did there? I quoted a great, some Zen Tao priest, and then I quoted Bugs Bunny after it. It's funny, isn't it? Ha 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 ha. It's like really fucking lame humour, and it's just repeating limericks word for word. It's just fucking lame. It's just like, come out with your own fucking shit. I see him do that lecture in '97 in London, and it was like, he's a repeater. He's just repeating stuff like from his books, word for word. It's just like he's learned, right, I can do this. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't rate him that highly. Don't rate him at all. they get very attacky. The other night I was on this stream and I was saying I don't rate him, and he was a self-promoter. They all cross-promote each other, these people. Just like today's kind of, you know, I don't know, you'll get people on a... They cross-promote each other. They all promote each other, like on YouTube. Like, all right, you give me a head, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's a big club and you ain't in it. And that's what I was... this guy, the other night, I said he's a self-promoter. He's a self-aggrandising and a self-promoter, and they all cross-promote each other. This little cadre. And this guy come back, and he was obviously he was quite a little bit attacky. He said, "Oh, do you mind?" I think he was from the States, I'm guessing. I don't know. Do you mind naming me which books of Robert Anton Wilson you've actually read? Because your criticisms sound very simple-minded. So I fucking read most of them. In the early 2000s, well, I used to subscribe to the Trajectories magazine, and then I kind of gave. I had a couple of the compilations, one of the compilations of that thing, and then I kind of got out of it. It started to fucking bore. I was reading the same book, the same shit again and again and again, hearing about what a great genius Robert Anton Wilson is, and like reading his like references to other people. I've read most of his shit. This guy is trying to like, oh, you don't know what you're talking. Oh, you must have misunderstood it. You must have misunderstood it. How it's such a shame that you could read such a great writer as Robert Anton Wilson, but you clearly haven't understood it. For people who consider themselves illuminated, I find them very closed-minded, and they can't. You know, another thing about Robert Anton Wilson. Okay, now he's if I remember rightly, so his daughter was murdered, and if I remember rightly, he had his daughter's brain cryogenically frozen. Now personally, you know, fill your boots, do what you want. You know, because he's into science, it's new developments. Like, he's a futurist. He's into science, and he believes that at some point in the future, you can bring yourself back by having your brain cryogenically frozen. In the future, we're going to have machine bodies, and you'll be able to get your brain and put it into a machine body. The same. Timothy Leary had the same idea, but I believe he didn't go through with it in the end. Now, in my opinion, cryogenics and having your brain frozen, to be possibly the idea of having it reanimated in the future, it's like completely materialistic, and it's completely ignorant. I'd say it typifies it. It's really stupid. For somebody who's quoting Zen priests and this type of stuff, the whole idea, like, of, in my opinion, like mortality, like, and you can read about stuff like this in like writings of Taoists, I guess like Buddhists, and etc., etc. The whole idea of like mortality is you have to accept that you're going to die. Sorry, immortality. The idea of immortality is you have to accept death to grasp the, you know, the infinite. And yet this is stuff that Robert Anton Wilson writes about, but at the same time he's thinking, oh well, you can just free, like your soul resides in your brain, and then you can just reanimate your brain. Well, anyone with a half a brain will realise that your essence, that like the inmost light, Crowley referred to it as, that's something that's it goes beyond your fucking body. It goes beyond your body. It's nothing to do with your body. It resides somewhere else. It's not in your brain. Like a Timothy Leary, again, in that that book I was talking about, I was reading recently, Designed for Dying. He's going on about all this shit, and it's like, I'm sitting in the gym reading this book. It's like, you're a fucking idiot, mate. Like, this is like bullshit. You're not in your brain. Two geezers down there having the time of their lives, running down the woods. Yeah, so there's probably things I've forgotten to mention, but we're at nearly 30 minutes now. So sorry, I don't consider him such a genius. I wouldn't put people off reading his stuff. I think it's all right. It's all right for a certain time in your life to get an introduction to various ideas. But like he always said, you know, Robert Anton Wilson, he's got this thing like, it's a Zen thing, like the map is not the territory. But like, unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the people who are into him, they don't seem to be able to get that. The lame boomer humour. And it's very egotistical as well, I find. Like, it's just the production of his books, kind of drawings of himself sitting in a kind of Buddha posture with an eye in the pyramid behind him, like smoking a spliff. Self-referential, self-aggrandising, self-promoting. Like that stuff he wrote, he talks about Timothy Leary. I know Timothy Leary claimed at some point that he was receiving transmissions from another planet or something, and or was it what's his name, the guy who wrote Valis, Philip K. Dick, I can't remember. And Robert Anton Wilson's like, oh, that's so strange, because at exactly the same time I was receiving transmissions from Sirius. And it's like, yeah, we've all fucking been there, mate. We've all fucking been there. We've all fucking sat on the top of a hill and like fucking done a bit of dope and thought we're fucking like receiving fucking some great wisdom. We've got some great insight. Fucking channelers, go to Glastonbury. We're on a tour here actually, but this is Scarborough tour, not Glastonbury tour. I prefer Scarborough tour. Go down to Glastonbury. Channelers are fucking 10 a penny. But for some, you know, like Robert Anton Wilson, he's referring to the Sirius transmissions when I was receiving the Sirius transmissions. It's like it's a great big deal in the history of mankind. Kind of referring to himself in the third person. I just don't. Rubs me up the wrong way somehow. Anyway, that's all I got to say on the non-matter.